Hi everyone, this is Sangeetha, working as assistant professor in IT department. Today I'm going to discuss about the concept of serializability in database management systems. We know that serializability is a very important topic when multiple transactions working on the common data, which is shared data, means that time there is a possibility of conflict. To avoid that kind of conflict, we have to arrange the transactions in order. Okay, so here the schedules in DBMS there is classified into two categories. One is serial schedule and non-serial schedule. If it is a serial schedule, it will execute like one after another. If the transaction one is executing, then next transaction two will get executed. Likewise, only the serial schedule will execute. But in non-serial schedule, the transactions are executed but whenever it occurs and access the data, is that time there is a possibility of conflict. So the previous sessions we discussed about so many problems due to the non-serial schedule. Like for example, in the schedule 4, concurrent schedule does not preserve the value of a plus b because before writing of the a value, the value will be read by the transaction 2. So it will leads to inconsistency because before updation of the data, if another one transaction is accessing the same data means, so there will be possible of inconsistency. Likewise in B, before committing that, if the B is utilizing by the under transaction, there is also inconsistency problem will occur. So these kind of scenarios will come when the transactions are accessing in non-serial manner. In that non-serial schedule, there are two kind of serializability is there, serializable and non-serializable. Under the serializable, we are going to see the two kind of serializability. One is view serializability and conflict serializability. And the non-serializability is there is a classification like recoverable and non-recoverable mechanisms. Under the recoverable mechanisms, then the cascading schedule, cascadeless schedule, and strict schedule will be used. So let me see one by one. In that, differentiate serial schedule and serializable schedule. The serializable schedule comes under the non-serial schedule. So in that schedule, the it strictly does not allow concurrent access, which means that no concurrency is allowed. But in serializable schedule, concurrency is allowed. So in that serial schedule, all the transactions are necessarily execute one after another. So which comes first, that will execute first, right? Likewise, the transactions will get executed. But in serializable schedule, multiple transactions execute concurrently. So the serial schedule lead less resource utilization in CPU throughput. But in serializable schedule, we are allowing concurrent access on the same data. So it will improve the resource utilization and CPU throughput. And here in serial schedule, less efficient compared to serializable, but serializable schedules are always better than the serial schedule. These are all the differences between serial and serializable schedule. Okay, serializability. So a schedule, maybe it's called as S. Okay, n transaction is serializability, which is equal to some serial schedule of the same transaction. Likewise, serial schedule, how it executes. Likewise, we are going to arrange the transactions. So the transaction is nothing, it's a set of instructions to perform the logical operation on the database, right? So when a multiple transactions are running concurrently, that to be sequence should follow to the operations to be performed. So serializability is a property of a system. It describing how different processes operate on the common shared data. So the system is a serializable means its result is the same across operations execute the same or sequential order. So here no overlap in execution. It strictly avoid the overlap of instructions. So if you take a type of serializable, so this is non-serial, this is serial. So S1 and S2. In S2, transaction 1 fully executed, after the transaction 2 will get executed. In non-serial, T1 partially execute, T2 partially execute, then T1 partially execute and T2 partially execute. So simultaneously within a whole of time, the every transaction will execute it and without overlap. So serializability, there is a two types, so the conflict serializability and view serializability. Conflict serializability means how does any conflicting operations occur? Again, the transactions are shuffled as like in some serial execution. So pair of operation is set to conflict. It operated on the same data item. So one of them is write operation means we have to arrange in serial order. Then a serial schedule called conflict serializability. So it can be transformed into serial schedule by swapping of non-overlapping operations. For example, there are some possibility it leads to conflict. So first one, if both the transactions are reading the data, there is no conflict. So that will execute it in any order. If one transaction is reading the data, the another one transaction is asking permission to read the data, so no issues. The same, one transaction is reading the data, another one transaction asking the permission to write, so that will be a conflict. Likewise, one transaction is writing the data, that time another one transaction is asked for reading, there is also a conflict. If both the transactions are asking the data for writing, that time also the conflict will occur. So based on this conflict matrix, the transactions are overlapped with the non-conflicting operations. So view serializable. The schedule is view serializable if it is a viewed equivalent to a serial schedule. So for example, T1 is reading initial value of A, then T2 also permitted to read the initial value of A. The T1 is reading the value written by T2 means then T2 also read the value written by T1. So T1 is writing the final value, then T2 also have to write the final value. So one after another, like a serial schedule only, while it sees, it looks like a serial schedule, but one after another it will perform, but simultaneously it allow multiple transactions. So in this session, we discussed about schedule, how the transaction on schedule and types of serializability we discussed. Thank you so much.